I have the honor of introducing Dr. Kabubo-Mariara. So Jane is the Executive Director of the Partnership for Economic Policy, responsible for the institution development, fundraising, and long-term sustainability and delivery of PEP's commitments. So Jane has an extensive global experience in policy research analysis to the Central Bank of Kenya's Monetary Policy Committee. She's also the president of the African Society of Ecological Economists, a member of the Club of Rome's Earth for All 21st Century Transformational Economics Commission, and she's also a member of the Innovations for Poverty Action Board of Directors. And also on top of this, she's a full professor of economics at the University of Nairobi. Jane, please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Just first to say that I have no conflicts of interest with regard to all those institutions, but the work that I'm presenting is more drawn from my primary institution, the Partnership for Economic Policy, and I titled this Contextualizing Evidence to Maximize Impact, and these are insights from the work that we do in the entire Global South. So first, just quickly to say that Partnership for Economic Policy, PEP, doing work quite different from what my predecessor has just spoken about, because then I go more to the social sciences, but specifically looking at economic policy, and we work in the entire Global South. And really, our work is dedicating to supporting locally led development. We want to see that we develop the local capacity for evidence-informed policy making processes to ensure that research and policy actually work hand in hand. We break the silos that everyone used to complain about maybe over a decade ago. As I've said, we work in the entire Global South. We worked in 65, now 66 countries, quite a number of projects, almost 400, more than 1,000 alumni. But I think what we are most proud about is the inclusivity. We talk about gender, equality, inclusion, so much about representation of women, not just as research assistants, but people who can not only do research, but also inform policies, and also the staffing, and where you see the yellow, the countries in which we have worked on for the last 22 years. What we do, we support the work of local researchers, and what we ensure is that we are strengthening their capacity. I don't want to talk about building capacity because they have some capacity, but we strengthen their capacity and promote their capacities in terms of research, policy engagement worldwide, meaning that though we are focusing on the local researchers, we have the global kind of ecosystem from which we draw expertise to ensure that we can build this capacity. And we facilitate their engagement and collaborative working between the researchers, policymakers, and other stakeholders, because when we are talking about evidence-informed policy-making processes, it's not just about policymakers. There are a lot of stakeholders who are involved. They are the citizens, they are the CBOs, they are the NGOs, they are the women, they are the children, they are the people living with different abilities, and so forth, who all have stakes in what is going on. And most important, we also bring together the researchers from across the group together in a working environment, not just virtually, but even in congregating, training them together to ensure that we have a space for learning, knowledge sharing, and discussions on matters related to evidence-informed policy-making processes. In our the kind of model that we do is that we do not, we are a grant maker, yes, but we do not just make grants. But what we do is that we offer technical resources to the researchers, from exposing them to literature, scientific approaches, softwares, but also actual mentorship, where we assign mentors, scientific mentors to teams of researchers, but we also assign them policy mentors who actually advise them on how do you ensure that research is not only of high quality on one side from the scientific mentor, but also from the side of policy, that this policy is, the research is asking the right policy question and is also highly engaged in terms of the stakeholders that are needed. And really, what we do is, in the end, we have work that can, of course, go into high-quality journals, including systematic reviews that we only started recently, but also ensuring that there's co-production of the work. And this co-production has ensured that our work feeds directly into policy design. In addition, there are various methodologies that we use. I'll not go into the methodologies as such, but I think the key thing that I want to say here is that we have come, or we come from what I'm calling the global perspective, in the sense that our scientific mentors are drawn from all over the globe, and they work with our researchers in the global south, meaning that they are bringing in the scientific approaches that they have and the empirical evidence that they have gathered from elsewhere to ensure that they can train the researchers we have in the global south from a local perspective. Local perspective in the sense that it's the local researcher plus the local policy maker and other stakeholders who will identify the local issues that need to be studied. But on the other hand, the global mentors will then bring their expertise to mentor this team that is at the ground level. In this one, then what we do is that there are three approaches that we follow. There's the co-production, there's the co-production of the research from identification of the problem to the implementation, all the way to the use of the evidence, and we have impact stories to show that this has really worked, because the mistrust between the researcher and the policymaker is no longer there. They can identify the problem together. Actually, what we require is that a researcher who is interested in our work will go look for a policymaker. That policymaker will identify the problem on the ground, and then they'll combine then the research question from the researcher and the policy question from the policymaker. They work on the design, thinking about who are the stakeholders to engage with, what kind of context, the local context is important, and then from there they'll be advised by our mentors, the scientific and the policy mentors, so that then they ask the right questions, they use the right methodologies, they ask the right policy questions, and they do what we call periodic engagement of actors along the way. Okay, and then the last aspect of our approach is what we call a policy paper. Recently, we've introduced a policy paper. The policy paper is not really, it's not like a systematic review, it's not like the research paper itself, but here the idea is to do the policy context analysis so that the researcher and the policymaker understand, again, the issues on the ground. I think I've already elaborated on that. Asking, for instance, how the current policies are addressing the issues, what needs to be changed about the current policies, because you see, we cannot start from a level where I assume that there's no policy as such. There's policy, but it's like asking, why is this policy not working? What is it that needs to be done to make this policy work? Who are the people people that we need to engage with? What are the parameters that we need to bring into the discussion for us to be sure that in the end we can have research that is informing policy? So then, for the point of view of the researcher, the point will be to ask about positioning the evidence as input for ongoing policy processes. And maybe as I finish, I would say that our last approach is the evidence-informed policymaking process, whereby we are now taking the same model, but working with institutions, because traditionally we have concentrated on researchers, but now we want to work more of working with institutions, looking at the policy context and stakeholder analysis at the institutional level. Again, the co-production or co-creating knowledge in collaboration with stakeholders, looking at cost-benefit analysis methods, knowledge translations on the research side, but then on the policy and government side, again, strengthening their capacities to work together. In terms of impact, perhaps just more of the final slide is that because of our traditional approach over the last 20 years, a lot of our work has influenced policy and practice, more than 50%, and a lot of our researchers have actually been invited to inform policy, both in the policy perspectives, policy papers, but even design of government programs. As I finish, I think I just want to add that a disclaimer that I was asked to kindly remind you that Concrete Africa will be convening in Nairobi from May 14 to 15, 2025. Please save the dates and plan to attend. Meanwhile, what I would say is that for us, what we do, I think there's a lot. I've not been able to cover everything, but there's a lot that, our website has everything. So feel free to visit the Partnership for Economic Policy website. Thank you for your attention.